Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Blackjack. Today, as always, I'll be doing a YouTube deck tech from the comment section for you guys. If you're interested in having me put a deck together for you or help you tweak a list you're trying to work on, I'm looking for any of the 5 metrics in the comment section. A bracket, a budget, a theme, a commander, and any pet cards you might have. I'll also leave a link to my Discord down below. It's a great place for you to join and drop a deck list and have me work on it. Today, we have a request from the user Sean G, looking for Arna Kennerüd. I'm just going to call her Skycaptain. Highly optimized bracket 3, budget $1,600, pet card, imposter syndrome. So I put together Skycaptain. We ended up at about $500. I'll give a little PSA right now when it comes to Commander and my opinion on how to invest in this format, invest in Magic in general. Most of my decks I think are probably between like 3 and 8 as far as a cost range. I think that's really all you need to have a really good time, be extremely competitive, have a really strong deck with, thematic elements that work together and things like that. If you do have that kind of a budget and you are looking for things to invest in and you want them to be useful in your deck, I would look at things like lands. So for example, having one of each dual land was, a big goal of mine, always playing Magic. A lot of people have gotten into Magic, it's been their goal as well. That's something that you could take some of that budget and work towards and keep forever. And it has a lot of liquidity because people are always interested in owning them and buying them. So, unlike investing in a card that might only be good in a particular deck or a particular format, something like Codsworth. Is it really worth $10? Well, obviously, yes, the market has deemed that it's worth $10. The market is willing to pay $10 for it. But would you use this in any other commander deck other than an equipment or an aura deck? No. So you want to get something that's more universal, but also liquidable in case you need the money and you need to get out. At least I'm looking at this from a very, uh, I don't know, my personal perspective. So if I was looking to increase the budget here, maybe there's some cards I would look at, but overall, I think this deck is extremely strong where it's at. It doesn't really need anything else. You might look at adding a scrub land, and then you might look at adding a tundra, and we're already at your budget right there. Simple as that, and then you'll have 2 lands that are essentially as good as it's ever going to get in all of Magic the Gathering, can be played in multiple formats and multiple decks, always useful, and they're always nice to look at when you draw them. So, little PSA real quick there for you. I'll get off my soapbox now. This is the Skycaptain. So there's a few different directions you can take this deck. It's Esper, 2 colorless, a white, a blue, and a black for a 4/4 flying lifelink ward, discard a card. Whenever a modified creature you control attacks, double the number of each kind of counter on it. Then for each non-token permanent attached to it, create a token that's a copy of the permanent attached to that creature. So you can go 1/1 counters, you can go equipment, you can go auras, you can mix it all up. Obviously, I think leaning heavily into one of those 3 thematic elements is the best way to go so you're not diluting your deck with a bunch of different things that don't really synergize well. I decided to go with a aura package. I think auras don't see nearly as much play as equipment, and I think that they're arguably even stronger, at least in the right deck and the right build. So we have some creatures here. Alayla, Artful Provocateur, makes creatures whenever you make an enchantment. So whenever you cast an enchantment, you make a creature. Archons of Sun Grace does the same thing. You'll notice the theme with our creatures is we want them to have a high level of synergy with our deck. They either need to be making creatures for us to continue to deploy enchantments onto, they need to be getting us enchantments, making enchantments cheaper, something along those lines. Armored Sky Hunter is an incredible card. You every time you attack, you look at the top 6 and you can reveal one, put it into play. Bruna, Something you play in the late game after a couple board wipes and it brings everything back. Cogsworth early and often to give your commander further ward plus, obviously synergistic with casting auras and making them cheaper and things. Danitha, kind of like a mini Bruna, you can play the mid to late game to get something back. Killian Ink Duelist, as an aside note, if you ever decide to build a extremely budget friendly deck or a deck that is pauper, so it's like only uncommons and commons, Killian I've thought about for a long time. I think Killian is insanely strong, and as a commander with an aura deck built around him, it could be extremely cheap and extremely effective. But even here, making stuff cheaper because the auras are, obviously targeting something. Chorus Spirit Answer for card draw, Light Pause to go get an aura. Mace Enchantress for card draw, Pearl Ear, it gives your stuff infinity, or not affinity to make it cheaper. And then whenever you cast something that targets modified permanent, draw a card. SRAM for card draw. Sun Titan, I always try to sneak it in a deck like this. I love Sun Titan, it's a good way to get stuff back. Umbra Mystic for totem armor, and then Zur quietly in every deck that can play these colors and is an aura thematic deck. Zur the Enchanter is usually the best card in it. This card does everything you want. Winds of Wrath as your only sorcery, just a one-sided board wipe, destroy all the stuff that's not enchanted. Instance, Teferi's Protection, Dawn's Truce, Fumble, all ways to, and Fumble notably is a cool one that doesn't see play anywhere else, all ways to protect your board, protect your pieces. This is more or less a all in on one creature game plan. The only time you would kind of steer away from that is if you happen to get the draw where you have a Layla or you have Archon and you're making a bunch of tokens with that. But even in that situation, those are more for blockers and you're still investing everything in essentially one creature. So it's important that you do everything you can to protect that creature. STP is one of the best removal spells. Ramp package, Arcane Signet, all the signets, Arcane, Azorius, Dimir, Orzhov, all the talismans, Dominance, Hierarchy, Progress, and then you have Felwar Stone, Soul Rain, and finally Thought Vessel as your 10th piece. Thran Power Suit, good for ward and pumping your stuff up, and then Swiftfoot Boots, notably not Lightning Greaves. Lightning Greaves grants Shroud, which means we can no longer uh, target that creature either. And ideally, if we only have one creature on the board, we're not going to be able to move the Lightning Greaves off to put more enchantments on it. So for now, just Swiftfoot Boots. But overall, 10 ramp pieces, I think it's a good place to start here. Enchantments, this is the big section. All that glitters to pump stuff up. Amphibian Downpour as a bit of removal. Aqueous Form to make sure you get through. Black Market Connection for some card draw. And then pretty much everything here, I'm not going to go over every single piece, but Cartouche, essentially we're wanting these cards to either draw us cards, make it harder to block the creature, or protect our creature in some way. So Cartouche of Knowledge, Combat Research, Curiosity, Obsession, Darksteel Mutation as a little bit of removal, Daybreak Coronet, Ethereal Armor, Ghostly Prison, Propaganda. Where are you at, Propaganda? Ghostly Prison, Propaganda, and Sphere of Safety, all as some great pieces of protection. You kind of get to play them for free in a deck like this because you're already playing a million enchantments. So getting down a Sphere of Safety in the mid to late game and saying each creature is going to have to pay 7 mana to attack me is a great tool to dissuade your opponents. Idolize to pump your guy up. Imposter Syndrome, one of the cards that you are looking for. Whenever a non-token creature you control deals combat damage, make a token copy, except it isn't legendary. So you can make a bunch of Skycaptains, which I think would be pretty funny. Imprison in the Moon as some more good removal. Mantle of the Ancients to get something back. Nerd Rage for card draw. Phyrexian Arena for card draw. Rhystic Study, obviously card draw. Sage's Reverie, pumps your guy up. Sheltered by Ghosts. When it enters exile, target online permanent an opponent controls, and then it gives your creature lifelink and ward. Shielded by Faith for indestructible, Spectre Ward for removal or protection from all colors, Spirit Mantle, Staggering Insight, Steal the Godhead, Unquestioned Authority. All of these are ways to protect your guy for the most part, or pump your guy or draw cards. Smothering Tithe, Rhystic Study are your pretty obvious choices for game changers in addition to Teferi's Protection. As far as a land package, nothing crazy. As always, do the best with what you have, but with your budget, I would recommend possibly dipping into some dual lands if you don't have any yet. Academy runes to buy stuff back. There's not really anything you care about buying back particularly, but in a deck like this, you're looking to play the long game. You can commit to a very long, drawn out game where at the end of the day, you have the biggest threat, the biggest creature, you're doing the most damage. So it's kind of a free roll in this deck. Hall of Heliod's Generosity is the same thing, but for enchantments, and obviously that's much more powerful here. Inventor's Fair, I believe this should have been cut because I originally built an artifact version of this deck and I wasn't quite happy with it. So we will add a plains and cut the Inventor's Fair. Monumental Henge, so you can get something, a little bit of, ways to use your mana in the mid to late game if there's nothing else going on. And then Urza Saga, just kind of a free roll in a deck like this. Like I said, when the budget's this high, you're almost looking for something to do with all the extra money. But overall, I think this deck has everything it needs to be powerful. I myself have a 5-color deck that's all based on, enchantments, and it's very, very good. I think Skycaptain has a bunch of use cases and a lot of flexibility in the way you put it together. This just happens to be the way that I probably would if I were to build it personally. But overall, I don't really think this needs anything else. I think you're going to have a great time playing it. And, hopefully you enjoyed the 5-minute rant at the beginning. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Godspeed.